There is a conversation that almost never happens, not between men and their doctors, not between men and their partners, not between men and anyone. And yet, it is one of the most common experiences in my practice, described to me in private, often quietly, often after years of silence. A man still feels desire. The wanting is there. But somewhere between that internal feeling and the physical response his body used to give him reliably and easily, something has changed. The response is slower, less complete, less confident, and the gap between what he feels inside and what his body delivers has become a source of frustration, then embarrassment, then avoidance. First, he avoids the situations where disappointment might occur. Then he starts to withdraw from intimacy altogether. And then, and this is the part that breaks my heart a little, he begins to believe that this is simply who he is now. I'm Dr. Fernanda Oliveira, board certified urologist, and I want to start today's conversation by saying something directly and without any softening around the edges. My dear friend, if any part of what I just described sounds like your experience, if you have been living in that gap between desire and response, carrying it quietly, there is absolutely no reason to feel embarrassed. None. This is one of the most common things I hear from men after 50, and the men I hear it from are not men who have given up or stopped caring about their health. They are often the most conscientious, most self-aware men in my practice. They simply haven't been given the right information about what's causing this and what can genuinely be done about it. That is exactly what today is for. One of my patients, a man in his late 50s, sat across from me and said something I've thought about many times since. He said, "Doctor, I still feel it. I still want it. But my body just doesn't cooperate the way it used to." And he said it with a kind of resignation that told me he had been carrying this for a long time before he finally said it out loud. He had been avoiding intimacy with his partner, not because the desire had left him, it hadn't, but because he was afraid of the disappointment, his own and hers. That anticipatory anxiety had become its own obstacle, layered on top of the physical one, making everything harder. When we looked carefully at his situation, there was no serious underlying disease. His testosterone, while somewhat lower than it had been in his 40s, was not dramatically deficient. What was clearly present was a pattern of reduced circulation to the pelvic region, compounded by stress, disrupted sleep, and a sedentary daily routine that had accumulated over years. The physical mechanism that translates desire into response, which depends entirely on blood flow, and had become sluggish, not broken, sluggish. And sluggish, unlike broken, responds to the right support. We made several changes together: dietary adjustments, sleep habits, movement, and one thing he had never considered before, a simple external approach using ingredients he already had at home that supported local circulation and tissue sensitivity directly. Within 3 weeks, he came back a different man, not in some dramatic pharmaceutical sense, in the quiet, genuine sense of a man who had reconnected with a part of himself he thought was fading. He used the word relief, not excitement, not triumph, relief. And I understood exactly what he meant. So let me explain what is actually happening physically, because once you understand the mechanism, everything else makes sense. An erection is a vascular event. The physical response depends on blood flowing efficiently into specific tissue and remaining there under adequate pressure. That process is initiated and maintained by a cascade of signals, beginning in the brain, traveling through the nervous system, triggering the release of nitric oxide in the blood vessel walls, which causes those vessels to relax and dilate, allowing blood to rush in. Every step of that cascade depends on the health and responsiveness of the vascular system. And the vascular system is profoundly affected by the changes that accumulate in a man's body after 50. Nitric oxide production declines. Blood vessel walls become less flexible. Circulation to the lower body becomes less robust. And the response that once arrived quickly and confidently now requires more stimulation to initiate, doesn't sustain as fully, and can feel unreliable in ways that feel deeply personal, even though they are entirely physiological. Think of it like a garden hose that has been lying in the sun for several summers. When it was new and flexible, you turned the tap and water flowed freely and powerfully. But now the hose has stiffened, the fittings have narrowed slightly, and when you turn the tap, the flow is weaker, less pressured, less reliable. The tap itself, your desire, your hormonal drive, is still working. The problem is in the delivery system, and that delivery system is what we are specifically trying to support today. Now, here is where this conversation takes a direction that I think will genuinely surprise many of you. We spend a great deal of time discussing internal support, what you eat, how you sleep, what supplements you take, how you move, and all of that matters enormously. But there is a complementary approach that is almost never discussed, and that many men have never once considered: direct external support. Topical application: a simple, carefully prepared oil applied directly to the tissue involved, using a gentle massage technique that has its own circulatory benefit independent of the ingredients. The skin is not a barrier. It is a living, absorptive organ. Compounds applied topically in appropriate formulations can penetrate and influence the tissue beneath. Certain natural ingredients, particularly those with known warming and vasodilatory properties, and when applied to sensitive tissue in very small, carefully diluted amounts, create a local increase in circulation that is distinct from anything you can achieve through oral supplementation alone. It is more targeted, more immediate, and when combined with gentle manual stimulation, it works through two mechanisms simultaneously. The ingredients support local circulation chemically, the massage supports it mechanically, and the combination, applied consistently over time, can meaningfully improve tissue responsiveness and sensitivity in ways that translate into better physical function. The key ingredients are simple. Coconut oil forms the base, skin compatible, non-irritating, and carries the active compounds while supporting the skin with mild, moisturizing, and protective properties. Ginger in extremely small amounts, either a very small amount of fresh juice or a diluted extract, creates the gentle warming effect that reflects increased local blood flow. The sensation of warmth you feel from ginger applied topically is not cosmetic. It is the surface expression of vasodilation happening in the tissue beneath. Cinnamon can be added in very small diluted amounts for a similar warming and circulatory effect. And I want to emphasize the word very. We are working with sensitive tissue. More is emphatically not better. Now let's get into the preparation itself, because this is simple enough to make in 2 minutes with ingredients from any grocery store. 1 tablespoon of virgin coconut oil forms the base. To that, you add a very small amount of ginger, and this is where most men make their first error. If you are using fresh ginger juice, you want no more than 1 to 2 drops, extracted by grating a small piece and pressing it through a fine cloth. If you are using a commercial ginger essential oil, the dilution needs to be even more conservative. 1 drop into a full tablespoon of carrier oil is the maximum starting point, and many men find that even half that is sufficient. Cinnamon, if you choose to include it, follows the same principle: 1 drop at most, and only after you have confirmed that the ginger preparation alone is well tolerated. Stir the mixture thoroughly. Make it fresh every 2 to 3 days rather than preparing large batches, because the active compounds in ginger begin to degrade, and fresh preparation ensures full potency. Store at room temperature away from direct heat or sunlight. Apply a fingertip-sized portion in the evening, ideally after a warm shower when the skin is clean, the tissue is relaxed, and circulation is already gently elevated from the warmth. This timing is not arbitrary. Warm water before application creates vasodilation that makes the tissue more receptive to both the massage and the active compounds. It also signals the nervous system toward that rest and restore mode, which is the neurological state in which sexual response is most accessible. Apply with gentle, deliberate touch. The massage itself should last 3 to 5 minutes. Not vigorous, not forceful. Slow, circular, attentive movements that bring blood to the tissue and maintain it there through sustained, gentle pressure. Men who are genuinely present during these minutes, rather than rushing through a checklist, consistently report better outcomes. Wash hands after application. Use 3 to 4 times per week rather than every night. The tissue benefits from recovery days, and consistency over weeks matters more than daily frequency. Now the mistakes, because these are the reason men try this, feel nothing or feel irritation, and conclude that it doesn't work. The first mistake is using too much. At too high a concentration, particularly with cinnamon, the preparation becomes uncomfortable, even irritating, to sensitive tissue. If you notice anything beyond a gentle warmth, stinging, significant burning, or redness, wash the area immediately with mild soap and water and reduce the concentration significantly before trying again. Start conservatively. You can always adjust upward. You cannot undo an irritation reaction once it has begun. The second mistake is expecting results in days. The changes this approach supports are tissue-level changes that develop over weeks of consistent application. Improved local circulation. Gradually restored sensitivity. These are biological adaptations that require time. 3 weeks of consistent practice is the minimum time frame before drawing any conclusions. The third mistake is treating this as an isolated intervention while leaving surrounding habits unchanged. The oil supports local circulation, but local circulation exists within a system. If that larger environment is characterized by poor sleep, chronic stress, sedentary habits, and a diet that promotes inflammation, the topical support is working against a strong current. Its contribution is significantly amplified when the systemic environment is also being addressed. Which brings me to the internal habits that multiply the results. Hydration is first. Blood is largely water, and adequate hydration is a prerequisite for robust local circulation. Front-loaded hydration during the day ensures the circulatory system is working with adequate fluid volume rather than operating in a mildly dehydrated state. Sleep is second, and its importance is direct. The tissue we're working to support undergoes its own repair and maintenance cycle during REM sleep, when the body increases blood flow to reproductive tissue as part of its automatic nightly maintenance. Men who protect their sleep protect this maintenance cycle. Combined with magnesium glycinate, a consistent sleep schedule, and reduction of evening fluid, sleep becomes one of the most powerful amplifiers of everything the external approach is trying to achieve. A simple morning warm drink is the third piece. 1 teaspoon of raw honey in warm water with a pinch of cinnamon, taken first thing, provides gentle metabolic activation and begins the day with a deliberate, health-supporting ritual, small in itself. But consistent small positives compound into significant outcomes over weeks and months. On the evenings when you apply the oil 3 to 4 times per week, the sequence looks like this. Light dinner finished 2 to 3 hours before sleep, a short walk after dinner if you're able, a warm shower, then the application and massage, 5 minutes, relaxed and deliberate, then your magnesium and warm evening drink, then sleep at a consistent time for 7 to 8 hours. On the other evenings, the routine is the same minus the application. In the first 1 to 2 weeks, most men notice increased awareness and sensitivity in the area, a return of feeling that may have been muted. In weeks 3 and 4, responsiveness begins to improve more tangibly. The physical response to desire comes more readily, feels more complete, and confidence, which had been quietly eroding alongside the physical changes, begins to return. Not because anything has been forced, but because the body is working better and the man can feel that it is. I want to say something about confidence specifically. The anticipatory anxiety that develops when intimate performance becomes unreliable is its own physiological problem. Cortisol released in anticipation of a feared outcome constricts blood vessels, directly countering the vasodilation that intimate response requires. The anxiety about the problem makes the problem worse, and the only thing that genuinely dissolves that anxiety is not reassurance or positive thinking. It is the body performing reliably enough, consistently enough, that the fear of disappointment simply stops having a basis. When the physical foundation is restored, the confidence follows naturally, not the other way around. As always, this is educational information, not a substitute for medical advice. If you are experiencing significant, sudden, or concerning changes in intimate function, please see a qualified urologist. What I've described today is appropriate for the common pattern of age-related changes in responsiveness and circulation, not for acute or serious underlying conditions. If you are going to begin tonight, go to the comments and type the words, "I'm trying this tonight." Name it, say it. The act of commitment matters more than most people realize. And if this conversation gave you something valuable today, please subscribe to this channel. Every week, I bring you honest, clinically grounded, genuinely useful guidance for men who are serious about their health and quality of life after 50. With simple, consistent care, my friend, confidence can return. Naturally, gradually, and entirely on your own terms. I'll see you in the next one. Take good care of yourself.